All right. Good morning, everyone. So I've started recording, and the plan for today. Are there any questions or concerns from the preceding stuff or the preceding lecture?
No.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so in that case, the plan for today is to complete the proof of this theorem that in a simple three connected planar graph, every simple three connected planar graph has a unique planar embedding, right? And as we discussed in the last lecture, the way we are going to prove this is we are going to show that facial cycles, which is like the very definition of a facial cycle, depends on a planar embedding. Is this definition is equivalent to one which has nothing to do with the embedding, and those are called non-separating cycles. So just to remind you, a cycle is non-separating if it has less than two bridges, so 0 or 1 bridges, right? So that's the actual theorem we'll be proving. And in particular, this implies that there is a unique planar embedding because the facial cycles are exactly the non-separating cycles, right? And for the non-separating cycles, you don't need an embedding. That's a completely combinatorial or graph theoretical definition. Right? Good. So that's the plan. We will wrap this up quickly and then we'll move on to proving Krotowski's theorem. Although we won't actually see the proof today, we will go through the plan for proving it, and it's only in the next lecture that we'll complete the proof. Okay, so anyways, back to this theorem. We've got a simple three connected plane graph. We've got a cycle. We want to show that it's facial if and only if it's non-separating. So first, let's prove the converse direction by contrapositive. Supposing I have a cycle that is not facial. So let's say I have this cycle. Right? It's a plane graph. So in particular, this looks like a closed curve in the plane. Well, if it is not facial, if C is not facial, then what it means is that there has to be some stuff drawn inside and there has to be some stuff drawn outside, right? That is what it means to not be facial. Otherwise, it would be the face of one of the two regions. And that means that there has to be a bridge inside and there has to be some bridge outside. C has at least one inner bridge, as we defined it last time, and at least one outer bridge. And that means that C is a separating cycle, or if you like, a not non-separating cycle, right? Good. So that proves one direction. If it is not facial, then it is separating. And now let's prove the other direction. So now we want to assume that it is a non-separating cycle. Sorry, we are going to assume that it's a facial cycle, right? And we want to show that it has to be non-separating. Okay. So C is facial. All right. So let's draw the cycle C. Let me just draw it like this. And since it is a face, I can make it the outer face, right? I can make an embedding by noting that anything you can draw on the plane, you can draw on the sphere by stereographic projections. You can also make any face the outer face. Okay. So assume without loss of generality that C bounds the outer face. In particular, this means that C has no outer bridges. Right? So all the bridges are drawn inside. So everything that is drawn here in this graph is either Hi, am I audible now?
Yes, now you are audible.
Okay. So for how long I was disconnected? Was I disconnected?
So maybe just you were saying that it has no outer bridge, so everything is inside.
Right. Okay. Thanks. So everything is drawn inside, right? And our goal is to show that C has precisely one inner bridge. Okay. And that will mean that it is non-separating. Okay. Um, how do we prove this? Clearly, it has to have at least one inner bridge because the graph is not the cycle, it is a three connected graph. So clearly, since G is three connected, C has at least one inner bridge, right? So let's suppose that first I want to convince you that this cycle cannot have any chords, so it cannot have any trivial bridges. Supposing there is a chord in the cycle, suppose C has a chord. Do you see a contradiction here? How would you get to a contradiction if there is a chord in the graph? Remember, nothing is drawn outside, everything is drawn inside, and it's a planar embedding. Supposing I have this chord, then I claim that there is a contradiction. Does anybody see it? Observe that these two vertices, they will, on deletion, they will disconnect the graph because nothing else is drawn in the on the outside. So there is no way this vertex, for example, can be connected to the outside to the other vertices, right? Because you can't draw out anything outside. So which means that if there is any bridges here, they all join to the vertices on this side. And that means when I delete X and Y, I will be disconnecting this part of the cycle from this part of the cycle, right? So if there is a chord, then XY is a two vertex cut. And that's a contradiction since G is three connected. And it turns out the same argument actually works even when you have non-chordal bridges. So now we don't have any chords. So C has no trivial bridges. In fact, what we will show is that C has precisely one inner non-trivial bridge. So we have already ruled out the trivial bridges. Now we just need to rule out the existence of two non-trivial bridges. So, well, let me just redraw. So now supposing I have two non-trivial bridges, B1 and B2. B1 and B2. Okay. Well, they are both inner bridges, so we know that they don't overlap, right? Which means all the vertices of attachment of one bridge are contained in a segment of the cycle induced by the other bridge, right? Just to remind you of the definition, in this case, for example, this is a segment of the cycle induced by the bridge B1, and all vertices of attachment of the other bridge B2 are on this segment of the cycle, right? Good. So let's see where we are. So now suppose C has two non-trivial bridges B1 and B2. Then this implies that because they are both inner bridges and the graph is planar, B1 and B2 do not overlap. Okay, or in other words, they avoid each other. Okay, and now I claim that you can take the two vertices that correspond to this segment, for example, x and y, and again they will disconnect the graph after deletion, right? So we know that all vertices of attachment of B2 lie on one segment of the cycle induced by B1, and let the ends of this segment be x and y. Okay, and now I claim that xy is once again a two vertex cut of G. Is this clear? Because once you delete x and y, you won't be able to reach from a vertex in B1 to a vertex in B2 in the resulting graph. Okay, so if that's clear, then that basically gives us a contradiction. So the reason is can't reach from vertex in B1. So you can think of an internal vertex if you like, to internal vertex in B2 instead of attachment vertex. Okay, so in both cases we have a contradiction, and that means that we have got precisely one non-trivial bridge, and that means that the cycle is separating, non-separating, right? Okay, so that's it. So this proves that for a three connected planar graph, the facial cycles are the same as the non-separating cycles, and so your embedding is going to be unique. Okay, so if there are no questions or concerns, then let's move on to proving Krotowski's theorem. Okay, are there any questions or concerns at this point? All right, so so let's put down the theorem statement again. So this is theorem 10.30 in the text. And it says that G is planar if and only if G has no K5, K33 subdivision, right? So what I mean by this way of writing is that G does not have a K5 subdivision and it does not have a K33 subdivision. Okay. And we've already proved one direction. We've already proved that if the graph has a K5 or K33 subdivision, then it is not planar, because these graphs are not planar, their subdivisions are not planar. And so any graph that contains a subgraph, which is a subdivision of K5 or K33, will also be non-planar. Right? So all of that has been proved. So what remains to be proved is that if G is non-planar, then G has either a K5 subdivision or a K33 subdivision. Okay? Good. So in fact, I would like you to think of this as the statement of Krotowski's theorem, because this is what remains to be proved. Okay, so try to think of this as the main thing Krotowski did. Okay. Let's take an example. So the Peterson graph is non-planar, right? Not good. So let me ask you a question. Which one do you think you will be able to find in this? Will you be able to find a K5 subdivision in the Peterson graph? Or would you be able to find a K33 subdivision? Any guesses? Can you find a K5 subdivision on the Peterson graph?
I think K33.
Right. And why? Can you actually use a simple argument to prove that the Peterson graph does not contain a subdivision of K5?
Because for K5 it should
Yeah.
four regular, but
Uh-huh.
it is
Yes.
three regular.
Right. So you need a vertex with degree 4
Yes.
to find K5, right? Because all the vertices of K5 have degree 4. So in fact, you need at least 5 vertices of degree 4 in order to find a subdivision of K5.
Yes.
Right? So Peterson is a cubic graph. So you won't be able to find a K5 subdivision. So you're right. So there is a K33 subdivision, and that is here. So that is a nice way to remember this. So draw K33 and take a perfect matching of K33. Since you both already know about perfect matchings, I won't define it. And subdivide the edges of that perfect matching one time. And now I'm going to add a new vertex outside and join it to these three. And you can check that these two graphs are isomorphic. Okay, so this is just another drawing of the Peterson graph. So there is a subdivision of K33 in the Peterson graph, which we know must exist by Krotowski's theorem because there is no subdivision of K5. So this can be used to explain the non-planarity of the Peterson graph. There is a subdivision of K33. Okay. But I want to still somehow explain the non-planarity of the Peterson graph using K5. Okay. So this explains the non-planarity of the Peterson graph using K33, right? This drawing. I want to still find an explanation for the non-planarity of the Peterson graph using K5. So let's draw K5 and let us see that the Peterson graph and K5 when drawn in this manner, they look very similar. Do you agree? There is something similar about the two drawings. How would you go from this drawing or this graph to this graph?
By adding those edges. Uh,
Okay. Do you want to add edges or do you want to remove edges? I want to go from the first graph to
okay, then we
the
have
second
to
graph.
remove those edges, like so contraction, edge contraction.
Contraction. Contraction. Thank you. So, exactly. So, we are going to take 5 edges. Let's look at these 5 green colored edges in the Peterson graph. They form a perfect matching of the Peterson graph. If I contract all of these 5 edges, in other words, I squeeze these edges into single vertices, each of them, then I will get exactly this graph. So contract the 5 green edges, and this will give you K5. So does this mean, can I now say that because K5 is non-planar, Peterson should also be non-planar? Does contraction preserve planarity? Supposing this Peterson graph was planar and I contract 5 edges, don't you think I should also get a planar graph after that? Right. Right. Intuitively, it seems true, right? If you have an edge E, contraction just means that I treat this whole thing as one vertex, or I squeeze it into a single vertex and I stretch those edges all the way to this point. And so if this is planar, I will get a planar embedding of this graph. Right? So this is one way to explain the non-planarity of Peterson graph using K5. Right? We are not getting a subdivision of K5, but we are still able to obtain K5 by doing a different operation. And this operation, this is not the complete generality that I want to tell you. We are going to call it minors of a graph. You may have already seen it in your previous courses. So we will say that K5 is a minor of the Peterson graph. And because K5 is non-planar, Peterson is non-planar. So this way, we get an explanation of Peterson's non-planarity using K5. Okay. All right. So now I want to just tell you what a minor is in its full generality. So there are few operations I'm allowed to do. The two main operations are deleting edges and contracting edges. But remember, if you delete edges, you can also get isolated vertices. And so you can also delete those vertices. There is no point in keeping isolated vertices. Okay. So we are going to allow 3 operations: deleting edges, contracting edges, and deleting vertices. And if you can obtain any graph from a graph G in this manner, we will say that that graph is a minor of G. Okay. So a graph J is a minor of G if J may be obtained from G by 3 operations: deleting edges, contracting edges, and deleting vertices. Okay. Notice that all three operations preserve planarity. So if your graph is planar, all minors of that graph would be planar. So this implies that if G is planar, then all minors of G are also planar, right? And that means that if you got a non-planar minor, then the whole graph must be non-planar, right? So let me ask you this. If a graph G has a J minor, so another way to state this, rather than saying J is a minor of G, I may say G has a J minor. Okay. If a graph G has a J minor, then does it have a J subdivision? We've already seen the answer to this. The Peterson graph has a K5 minor, but it does not have a K5 subdivision, right? So, no. In general, the answer is no. What about the converse? If a graph G has a J subdivision, then does it have a J minor? What do you think? If a graph has a K33 subdivision, for example, or a K5 subdivision, then does it have a K5 minor or likewise K5 subdivision?
I think no.
No? Okay. Let's go to our graph here just to see an example. Let's look at the Peterson graph.
Yes.
So it has a K33 subdivision, right? Does it have a K33 minor? Can you see how you would get a minor of K33 from this drawing of the Peterson graph? So what is allowed in a subdivision? In a subdivision, you can first delete. Yeah, go ahead. Right. So you can first delete some subgraph because in a subdivision, you have some subgraph that is a subdivision of K5 or K33, right? So let's say we are looking at K33. So there is a subgraph that is a subdivision of K33. So what you can first do is you can delete everything that is not in this subgraph, right? Which means you are deleting vertices or edges. Then you will be left with the subdivision. From the subdivision, can you contract edges and get the actual graph? If you take a subdivision of K33, can you contract edges and get K33 out of it?
Yes.
Right? How would you do it?
The red one we will contract with.
Right. This one you mean.
Yes.
You can contract this edge, and this edge. So first you delete vertex, delete. Then you contract these three edges, contract these edges. And now you have a K33, right? Let me mark them with double dashes. Okay. Right. So this direction is actually true. Whenever you have a subdivision of K33 or of K5 or any graph, you will also have the same graph as a minor because you can delete everything, get the subdivision, And then in the subdivision, for every path joining two vertices of the original graph, let's say K33, you contract all the edges of the path except one edge. So basically you turn the path into a single edge, and that you can do by contraction. And that way you will be able to get the graph J. Okay, so the answer here is yes. Okay, but we essentially discussed the argument. Okay, so what's going on here? Both of these are containment notions. So both of these, I want you to think of them as graph containment notions. So it's basically telling you that the graph G, in some sense, minor or subdivision, contains the graph J. And one of these containment notions is weaker than the other notion. Which one is weaker? The minor notion is weaker than the subdivision notion. However, the minor notion is weaker than the subdivision notion. What I mean by that is that if a graph contains some graph as a minor, it may not contain it as a subdivision, right? We already saw this. However, if you know that the graph contains some graph as a subdivision, then it does contain the same graph as a minor. So in this sense, minors are a weaker notion of containment than subdivision. Okay. Good. So why are we discussing all of this stuff when what we want to prove is Krotowski's theorem, which is about subdivisions? Why talk about minors at all? Well, the reason is we will actually not prove Krotowski's theorem. We will prove a similar theorem by Wagner, which instead of subdivisions talks about minors. Okay, and on the assignment you will be proving that Wagner's theorem implies Krotowski's theorem. Okay, and okay, so this is Wagner's theorem. Let me see the number. Theorem 10.32. This is Wagner in 1937, which is after Krotowski's theorem, but it was proved independently. So in some sense, they both get the credit for characterizing planar graphs. So he proved that a graph is planar if and only if G has no K5 or K33 minor. Okay, so it's exactly like Krotowski's theorem, except that we are using a weaker notion of containment, which is minors instead of subdivisions. Now, you might be somewhat surprised that despite using a weaker notion, we are getting the same list of graphs on the right-hand side. Same list. Why? You are using a weaker notion. You would expect there to be more things rather than just K5 and K33. You could expect there should be K5, K33, and some other graph, maybe the Peterson graph, because it's a weaker notion. So you might have to exclude more stuff to get planar graphs. The answer here is it's a coincidence. In the case of K5 and K33, turns out that having a subdivision of one of them is the same as having a minor of one of them. So you can't say that if there is a K5 minor, there's a K5 minor if and only if there's a K5 subdivision. That's false. But if you include both K5 and K33, then it turns out that um, using minors or subdivisions gives you the same class of graphs, planar graphs. Okay, so it is somewhat of a coincidence. In other words, what I mean here by a coincidence is that there are results in graph theory where if you use minors and if you use subdivisions, you get different list of graphs. In particular, in minors, you should get something. You should get a bigger list of graphs than the theorem for subdivisions because it's a weaker notion. So you will have to exclude more graphs, right? But in the case of planarity, that does not happen. Okay, so that's something you'll be proving on the assignment. Okay, so our goal is to prove Wagner's theorem, and on assignment 3, one of the things you will be proving, I'll be releasing the assignment in a few days. You'll be proving that Wagner's theorem implies Kuratowski's theorem. Okay, good. So how do we prove Wagner's theorem? Okay. Let me also mention that this here is proposition 10.31. All right. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to just outline the plan for proving Wagner's theorem, and we will implement this plan in the next lecture. Okay, so the plan is to first reduce the problem to 3 connected graphs. Okay, so when we were studying 3 connected graphs, I recall telling you that we will be using some of the results to prove Kuratowski's theorem. So this is exactly what we are going to do. We will first reduce to 3 connected graphs. Okay. And within this, there is one part which is do it yourself. First, reduce to non-separable graphs. Okay. All right. And for that, yeah, so the way you want to do this is you want to prove that a graph is non-planar, or let's say planar. A graph is planar if and only if each of its blocks is planar. Okay, so that you can prove yourself. And secondly, if any block contains a K5 or K33 subdivision, then the whole graph will contain minor, doesn't matter. Then the whole graph will contain a K5 or K33 minor. If any block has a K5 or K33 minor, then G has In fact, you can make this if and only if. Let's write it differently. G has a K5 or K33 minor if and only if at least one of its blocks has a K5 or K33 minor. Okay, so those are easy to prove, so I'll just leave it to you. So once you have reduced it to non-separable graphs, you need to deal with two vertex cuts, right? Also, you can assume your graph is simple because loops and multiple edges do not affect planarity. Okay, so you can also include simple here. A graph is planar if and only if the underlying simple graph is planar. Okay, so now we have simple non-separable graphs, which is basically the same as two connected graphs, if you like, right? And now we need to get rid of two vertex cuts. And so in that direction, we'll be proving two lemmas, although I would urge you to try to prove these on your own. They're not difficult. So if G is a graph with a two vertex cut xy, then G is, okay, then each marked component. So we discussed marked components when we were discussing three connectivity. So what you're doing is you have a two vertex cut, and let's say this is one of the components. Then you would take the component and the two vertex cut, the graph induced by this, and you would add an extra edge joining these two vertices. Okay. So this is a marked component. Then each marked component of G is isomorphic to a minor of G. Basically, you can get rid of isomorphic too. Each marked component is a minor of the graph. Okay. And so this will prove tomorrow. And another lemma in the same direction to complete our reduction to three connected graphs is the following. So G is a graph with a two vertex cut xy. Then the graph is planar if and only if each of its marked components, marked xy components, is planar, right? So essentially what we are saying is that whenever you have a two vertex cut in the graph, if the graph is non-planar, so remember we are trying to prove that if the graph is non-planar, then the graph has a minor of K5 or K33, right? So if your graph G is non-planar, then by this result, again, proof later, then by this lemma 10.34, you know that one of the marked components of the graph will be non-planar, right? So if you do this iteratively, because by doing this marked components thing, you will eventually you will get three connected components of the graph. Remember, we drew this tree where for every two vertex cut, you get you decompose it into its marked components. Then you keep doing this. In the end, you will get three connected components of the graph. So by this lemma, it implies that one of the three connected, well, each three connected component. So if the graph is non-planar, then one of the three connected components is non-planar, right? Because if each of them was planar, then the whole graph would be planar. So G is our non-planar graph. So you'll get one of the three connected components, which is non-planar. And then we will prove Krutowski's theorem for three connected graphs. So that will contain a K5 or K33 minor. And then by lemma 10.33, you will know that K5 or K33 is a minor of the original graph G. I'll explain a little bit more about that. So now invoke Wagner's theorem for three connected graphs, which we'll be proving. And now by the previous lemma 10.33, G has a K5 or K33 minor. Okay. So here I want to mention one point. So what I want to mention is that both of these containment notions are transitive. If G has a J H minor, if G has an H minor and H has a J minor, then G has a J minor. And similarly, likewise for subdivisions. So why is this relevant? Because what we are going to prove here is that each marked component is a minor of the graph G, but we will be proving that K5 or K33 is a minor of one of the components. And because a component is a minor of the graph G, by transitivity, K5 or K33 is a minor of the graph G. So here we are using transitivity by lemma 10.33 and transitivity, which is written here, we will know that the whole graph contains a K5 or K33 minor. Okay. So this is the main plan for reducing the problem to three connected graphs. And then comes the main step of proving Wagner's theorem, is to prove it for three connected graph. Right. So in particular, we will be proving theorem 10.35, which is that every three connected non-planar graph either has a K5 or has a K33 minor. Okay. So this is the main point. But tomorrow we will be proving all of these results. And I will go through again why these results culminate in a complete proof of Wagner's theorem. And as I said on the assignment, you will be proving that Wagner's theorem implies Krotowski's theorem. So tomorrow shall also mark the end of planarity, after which we'll move on to vertex colorings of graphs. And we will connect it with planarity. Okay. Good. Any questions or concerns? Sorry, it was a bit dense towards the end, but I will be going through these things again tomorrow. Okay. So yeah, if there are no questions or concerns, feel free to leave the meeting. Maybe I'll stop recording.